I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. Welcome. Today, I am going to be doing my second video talking about the Ohio 16, the Siders children. This is a very difficult case. And so if you have to step away, I totally get it. I'm not going into the details. I just want to talk in general about what the road ahead could look like for these children and some of the hurdles that they may have along the way. Thank you to the psych nerd that talked about the Brian Entin's video, because that interview with the Turpin family prosecutor, it was amazing. I have a link to that interview down in the description. I'm not going to be playing clips from it. We are just going to be talking in general. If you don't mind, because it was a pretty heavy interview, but it was good. And the prosecutor talked about the importance of setting boundaries when you have a huge case like this, that she asked that this be her only case, because she wouldn't have been able to handle the Turpin case and other cases as well. That case consumed everything. And even after, she had to kind of get things back together. And then also how her agency advocated for the children, even when she didn't feel social services was doing all that they could have done. And an example of that is, while foster parents are trained, and even therapeutic foster parents are trained, they're not always coached on a child that has been severely neglected. They are not they might not be able to eat 3 meals every day. A child that survived on 200 calories a day, they are not gonna be able to eat a 1,200 calorie, like, their stomachs, their bodies are not gonna be able to process that food. Heavy foods like steak, or so a kid that's been eating peanut butter sandwiches for all of their life and they're 17 years old, their bodies, new foods might be hard. And because sometimes foster parents would like force kids to eat all their food, or like, you can't leave until you finish your, because they're so focused on their nutrition. And no, like, these kids, you want to work with the nutritionist, you might have to work with the gastrology and all these medical things, and just let the child listen to their body sometimes, and not force the kids to eat something that they can't eat. So if the child can only tolerate soft noodles, that we're just doing soft noodles for now. And we might just do soft noodles for like 3 to 6 months or longer. And just how she also talked about how the children being placed in separate homes. So all they had was each other, and being separated, just how that made their experiences so much harder. And I do believe that the 16 children in the Ohio case, there's no way one single foster family is going to be able to take them all. They will have to be separated, and that is going to be hard. And let's remember, what they were rescued from is what they believed was normal. And but they had each other. They were in a room together. But let's say one child is placed by themselves in a foster home that doesn't have any other children. And now this one child is having to sleep in a room all by themselves. And they've never slept in a room. They might not have, I don't know if they had beds. I don't know if they had 16 beds back in that room. And so the child might sleep on the floor. So I've worked with cases where initially we put the mattress on the floor, or if the mattress was still, so I love a soft mattress, like, I love a nice pillow top, but a child that's been sleeping on the floor for 12 years, you give them a bed, the floor might feel safer because that's what they know. And so you go slow. And I'll go back. There is a foster parent that creates content on TikTok and YouTube. She never shows any of her foster or adoptive children, but she gives education. And she even shows how sometimes a room having too much stuff in it can be overwhelming. Because sometimes the foster family is like, oh my gosh, this kid has nothing. I want to drown them in all these things. Like I want to buy them everything they want. And that can be too much. That sometimes the child might need to sleep with the lights on every night. The child might need, and you're going to have to go slow. And that sometimes when a child first arrives to the home, sometimes you play outside first before you walk inside the house because that can feel scary. And back when I did intensive in-home therapy, there would be times where I would be notified that a removal either happened or it was coming up. And I would sometimes be able, as a therapist, I would be able to support the child through that transition. And because sometimes foster parents, when they're asked, can you accept a child with a lot of medical needs, age 4 and 5? Sometimes that's all the information they're given, and they're not given like this child has never. They don't know anything about this child's story. Uh, and so sometimes, so I don't want to say it's all the foster parents' part. Sometimes they just haven't been given the information. I, as a therapist, I would sometimes serve as that in between where it's like, hey, just so you know, when they go to visits, they eat a really big meal. But when they come back to your house, they're still going to want to eat something. But maybe if we can do a lighter meal, because they really did just have like a full meal during their visit. This is why, because a lot of people are mad that a family might still get visits after doing the horrific thing that they've been charged with, but those are those children's parents, and sometimes to ease the transition, instead of just cutting them off and they never have contact with them ever again, sometimes they do supervised visitation, supervised phone calls. And sometimes that's what the child wants. And because that's what the Turpin prosecutor, that's what she talked about from that family case. She talked about how some of the children, they didn't want their parent to go to jail. They just wanted them to do better. And the children wanted their parent to like learn how to like be safe, and the children wanted to be able to go back home. And but that wasn't going to be possible. The details of it were too horrific. And so there can be a lot of loss that comes with this. And I don't know that we always focus on that. Would it make sense to keep them together in a house, not necessarily a family, but with caretakers and take turns caring for them so they stay together? I don't know that a facility exists like that because you would need a facility with like 10 rooms. So it'd be almost like a group home, but it would be a group home just for this situation. And sometimes you're navigating because sometimes them all being together, they might try to escape. Like there could be safety issues for why you wouldn't want them all together. I've worked with separated sibling groups, and while they were separated, we realized that harm had happened between the kids because of lack of supervision, because of lack of food, that the kids would fight for food or different things like that. And I mean, I've worked with multiple cases, so I'm not giving you details about any one specific case, but sometimes I know it's not. I'm speaking on both sides. I'm saying yes, and that you aren't going to be able to keep all 16 together. If there were 5, you could probably keep 5 together. If there were 6, you might be able to keep 6 together, but we 16 children from 18 months to 18 years old, because I think they are trying to keep the 18-year-old in this case. They're trying to keep her in child protective services, but in most states, she would automatically go to adult protective services. And in the Turpin case, they mentioned that some of the kids that ended up in adult protective services, they ended up in like unsafe neighborhoods. They ended up, there was additional harm because they weren't ready to navigate the world that way. And but the prosecutor was a safe person where they would come and advocate like, "Hey, my foster parent is forcing me to eat steak. Can you please talk with them?" And these kids were verbal enough to do that. The kids in this case, I don't know where their developmental functioning is. I did also want to clarify because there's been additional information that's come out. My very first video, um, because more information has come out where some, if not, there were lots of children that were born in hospitals because originally we thought that they were hiding the children and the children weren't born in hospitals and didn't have documentation. And it sounds like they do. It sounds like the grandparents might have been receiving some type of like, so some type of aid, some type of that was the financial income they had. And there was a history of social services being involved with the children in 2021. So that in 2021, in the state of Ohio, they were looking for these children because concerns had been raised by the school. And I hope a law, so if I ha- in my I hope a law is passed where that can then become a statewide alert that we're looking for this because sometimes what happens, I've known cases where a family just moves to another county and that new county decides to not take up the case. And now, so I know in Virginia, each county runs their protective service unit. It's not like a state run thing. Each county manages things and their supervisors, the people at that office in that county and that prosecutor, they all decide what happens. There might be some situations where it's like this is a big red flag. We're really concerned about the safety of these children. Can we make like this bigger statewide alert? And I wonder if that was also why they didn't put the kids back in school, if they were ever going to put them in school. Because the school's the one that was like, we haven't seen some children. I don't remember how many it was, but they hadn't seen them in a year. The children weren't enrolled in school. They weren't signed up for homeschool. And so, and this was 2021. And we know in 2020, when the shutdown happened, there were kids being at home all the time. There were some kids that were harmed. That school was a safe place, and not having school anymore, like that's where, you know, I've heard horrific stories of things reported and seen during that time, that kids being able to go to school, to have contact with some outside person. I personally would like for, with homeschool, that there be some type of in-person assessment on a annual basis where we're just tracking learning, we're assessing for needs, we're making sure. But people that sometimes select homeschool, sometimes they're not wanting state involvement. And Virginia is a commonwealth. They think individuals' rights are first. And so I don't know that Virginia will ever do that, but it is what it is. All right. Let me know if y'all have any general questions. Thank you so much for lurking. This situation is out of the ordinary. They need to make special arrangements for these children, not separate them. But I don't know that they have the resources to. Like I legit I don't know that they actually can. Or even that it would be so it's so the children need to be in a the children being in a home with a family, because if you have caregivers coming and going, those children don't have an attachment. So, or because it would be like an orphanage where they're just the kids live there and they're caretakers, but there's nobody that's consistent. Like, yes, somebody might work day shift, somebody else works night shift, but you're not forming like safe, healthy attachments. And so, and caregiver positions often have high turnover. Not always, but my experience is they often have high turnover. And if they're in one location, we have now put all these children in one school district that now has to meet and assess the needs of all these children. And so I don't know. We will see what happens. The judge has done a gag order on this case. So the state and the defense will no longer be able to discuss the case. We will not get any more updates. We will not know what's going on. This is definitely a case that I will follow. So please make sure to stay tuned. There will likely be a playlist for this case if it ever does go to trial. I also saw that the grandfather had some medical emergency and he's, I think, I don't know if he's in the hospital or I don't know, but They didn't keep him in jail, and we'll see what happens, but, very heavy case. Please make sure that you're taking care of yourself, touching grass, spending time with family. These cases can be really heavy, and so please make sure that you're taking care of you. Once again, be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next time. I hope y'all have a good one.